So journalists are just one adjunct of the left, not just here in America, but around the world. So let's broaden our focus from journalists and the journalistic world in which you live. And let me just ask you, what has gone wrong with the left? Not just here in America, you can see it among Democrats boycotting Prime Minister Netanyahu's speech and Kamala Harris's vice presidential comments today. But it really is the global left now seems to be the hotbed of anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism. Not always the case. Well, why is that? What's happened, not just here in America, but in Europe and around the world, that has caused such a fierce backlash, not just to Israel, but to Jewish life, culture, and the Jewish community around the world on the left?
Well, one of the fascinating things about anti-Semitism is that it is one of the surest ways in which you can test the health of a society. If a society has, anti-Semitism is never able to be completely eradicated. There will always be some people from whatever fringe. But if a society is pretty much inoculating itself against anti-Semitism, it is one of the signs that the society is doing well. On the flip side, if a society or a movement starts to indulge in anti-Semitism, you can always tell that everything else is going rotten. One of my great heroes was a Russian Soviet writer from the last century called Vasily Grossman. And he wrote one of the great novels of the 20th century, Life and Fate. He was also a journalist of great distinction, and he was also Jewish. He covered, as a reporter, the Battle of Stalingrad, and he also was the first journalist to walk into Treblinka. And in the middle of his great novel, Life and Fate, which is 900 pages, but I'll save you the time, in the middle, right in the heart of the novel, Grossman devotes 4 pages to the question of anti-Semitism. He's just covered the Red Army winning in Stalingrad. He's just covered the defeat of Hitler at Stalingrad, and he's about to go on to the camps. And he does 4 pages of just talking about anti-Semitism. He says something there that I wish was better known. He says, among other things, the thing about anti-Semitism is that you can find it everywhere. He says you can hear it in the songs that children sing in the schoolyard, and you can find it in the Academy of Sciences. But the important thing that Grossman says is everywhere, it doesn't tell you about the Jews. It tells you about the person talking about the Jews. And the great insight he has is, he says, tell me what you accuse the Jews of. I'll tell you what you're guilty of. Now, anti-Semitism can come from any direction. Historically, it's often come from the far right. But today, there are always worries about that, but today it is the far left that is the predominant place that is fostering anti-Semitism. And many of them don't know the swamps that they're in, and some of them do. These people who, after the announcement of the murder of an American citizen, marched on the streets of New York and were waving the flag of Hamas, know exactly what they're doing. But a lot of the left has fallen into anti-Semitism because it has basically got a new religion. Of course, the left is still playing with the embers of Marxism, but they also have this new religion, the religion of intersectionality. And this is the religion in which the more oppression you can claim you've suffered, the better you are. Now, who could have foreseen that this would lead to an oppression Olympics in which people are desperate to claim that they're oppressed, and that a student at Berkeley must feel like the most oppressed person in the world, so that somebody being pursued by the Janjaweed militia in Sudan has nothing on them as they enter their 3rd year of lesbian dance theory. And And I would have said make themselves unemployable, except it turns out there's masses of jobs for these people to go into. They all went into HR and Silicon Valley. But this oppression Olympics, you could already see, leaves the Jews in a very perilous position. And I said this many years ago. They already were trying to make the Jews the kind of super whites. And then you have the thing of, what are the things that the American left is obsessed by? And I've written about this in my last book, The War on the West. They're obsessed by several primordial sins: the sin of racism, the sin of colonialism, the sin of slavery. They are people of stupendous historical ignorance, who believe, for instance, that only America ever enslaved anyone, and that, for instance, the Ottoman Empire, well, it's not really come across their plate. They imagine that the history of Britain or Europe is only to be looked at through the lens of colonialism, as if the Renaissance is nothing, you know. Well, they don't know what it is, so of course it's nothing. And on and on. A majority of young British people polled the other day said that they believed that the foundations of Britain were racist. And you see the same thing in the left in America, and particularly in the young left. They have got this new religion. They think everything is about these things. You simply have to find racism, find colonialism, and so on. And why do I mention this? Because it comes back to what I just mentioned about Vasily Grossman. There's an interesting twist that the American left is doing. I don't think I've said this before, but I've been thinking about it a lot recently. If Grossman is right, and I think he is, that what you accuse the Jews of, you're guilty of, what is it the American left, particularly the campus left, are doing? They are accusing the Jews of something that they believe they themselves are guilty of. As it happens, they're incorrect. They believe America is a racist society. They believe that America is a colonialist society. They believe that America is a white supremacist society. Now, all of this is rubbish. But they imagine this to be the case. And it's all of the things that they're accusing Israel of. They say that Israel is a colonialist society. Tell that to the British in the Mandate era, and they'd have been amused. They imagine that Israel is a white supremacist society, which I always say is one of the ways to show you've never been to Israel. And they believe that Israel, because they believe that America is based on genocide, they accuse Israel of genocide. It's a very clear pattern at this stage. There is no other reason for them to level these extreme allegations that are so flagrantly untrue.
Thanks for watching. Drop a comment below. Don't forget to like, share, and hit subscribe to stay updated with our latest content. Until next time, stay informed and inspired. This is Djobnik signing off.